Hello, everyone. Everyone. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It depends on which time zone you're in at the moment. Now, I'm recording this lesson, the reading lesson, to help you with, the skills or the strategies that can help you to improve your reading skills in IELTS. Now, I still find that lots of my students are confronting issues with the reading. Um, and I think there are specifically like few question types that they face problem a lot with. And these question types are, for example, one of the most common ones is when they have to match headings with the appropriate paragraph. So they sometimes get very confused that, like, for example, some of the paragraphs look very similar. When they come back and look at the headings, oh, maybe this is the right answer, maybe this is the right answer. So maybe two answer matches. They think the match, with one paragraph, and that's how they're confused. All right. Now, this is one thing we're looking at now. I'm going to explain that how you can decide that what should be the best answer for the question in terms of matching heading for the paragraph. Now, that's one thing. We're going to also look at the other question type, which is the well, which is the summary completion. You can see that there's a text on your right and there is a summary on your left from question number 14 to 19. Now, this is a summary of the text, which is right on your right, okay, which means on your right hand side, and below you can see there's a box and you have to choose your answer from the box there. Okay, we'll be looking at this question type in this video also. And again, well, the other question type, which is again the biggest problem for students, for majority of the students, is to decide between the statement true or false or not given. Okay, so these are three major question types that we are going to cover in the video. And then maybe you want to come back with your feedback and tell me that how you found these strategies useful or not useful. Okay. So let's look at the headings and then the paragraphs. Now, well, one thing which you should be doing when you're doing a test in the exam, when you start reading the text, and that is what? Okay. Now, I think the first thing that you should be doing in the beginning is to have a quick survey of the text. You can look at the paragraph very quickly, and you should be looking at the way the text is organized. In other words, it is called having a kind of, a quick, overview of the text in the first maybe few minutes, like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, to see that like how the text has been organized. Okay, and what I see that this is a text here. It's about the place called Agati, the coral reefs of Agati Island. Okay, so it's about an island, an Agati Island. Okay, and contains A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 9 paragraphs. Now, if you look at the headings, for example, on the left, you can see there are more headings than the number of paragraphs. So maybe there are a few headings which are actually extra. Okay. Now you can get a quick review of the text like this. And then, well, in case of, deciding between what should be the right heading for each paragraph, well, my strategy would be like if I can look at the list of headings and identify the important signals, the keywords, the important words that will help me to decide what should be the right answer as I go to the text, and then I read the paragraph very quickly. But because I know one thing for sure, that usually the message or the topic sentence is either in the beginning of the text or the paragraph or the bottom of it. But that doesn't mean that I don't have to read the whole paragraph. I must read the whole paragraph, but that should be very quickly. Now, next thing you should remember that maybe that if you find something within the paragraph, some special prints. Now, what does exactly it mean by special print? Now, a special print might mean, for example, some numbers, the bold print words, maybe italic words, okay, or maybe something which is underlined or circled, shaded. Now, if you discover that sort of information within the paragraph, somewhere in the middle of the paragraph, you must read that information too, because it carries a lot of information to help you to decide what should be the right answer. Okay, now, here, as I said earlier, that we're going to look at the list of headings. So let's analyze the heading first. Okay, now if I look at the first heading, I find two words. The first was in Ireland, and the other word is in legends. Okay, so maybe I can find the word island in so many places in the text, because the whole text is about the island. But the legend is something which extends this heading out. Legend, something which is known, famous, that people remember. Okay. Okay. Now, looking at the second heading, the important word is exchange, an exchange of the resources. So these two words are really important, because for is a word of a grammar, so I will not underline that word. Okay, number 3, I'm going to underline words like competition and then the fishing rights, that who has the fishing rights, legal rights, to fish in a specific place. And there's a competition between the two tribes, for example. Okay, number 4, we talk about low costs, which involves the money, okay, of what? Of the equipment that you use for fishing. Number 5, now since I know that the text is about agati, so, well, this is also an important word here. But what exactly is important here is the location, which is favorable. Okay. And then the 6th one, we talk about the income level, which probably is rising. Looking at the 7th heading, we talk about the social nature and then the repopulation. Okay. Number 8 is the resources for the islanders' own use. So whatever they produce, for example, they only use it by themselves. It's only for their own use. Number 9, we talk about the high level of expertise. Now, the important word here, expertise. Now, if you may have looked for another word for expertise, it could be either knowledge or skills, which is of high levels. Okay. Then we have number 10, we talk about the alternative sources of employment. And then it's the resources for earning money. And finally, social rights and the obligations, which means like what you're obliged to do, what you have to do as a job, for example. Now, since we have highlighted the important words from the list of heading, and each heading represents important keyword, a signal word that will help you to decide which should be the right answer. So this time I'm going to read the next paragraph. I'm going to look at the first sentence of from paragraph A. Now, looking at the first paragraph, it says that Agati is one of the Lakshadweep islands of the southwest coast of India. Okay. Now, this sentence, if you read it carefully, if you understand the meaning, it talks about what exactly is Agati. It says that it's actually one of the Lakshadweep islands, okay, and it is off the southwest coast of India. So the sentence says, what exactly is Agati? Now, if you can remember, when you were highlighting the keywords from the list of headings, you highlighted the word that was a location, the location of Agati. Remember? So I'm sure that by looking at the first sentence, you can quickly decide that the best answer to paragraph A, because the first sentence, because it introduces a topic sentence, you can quickly decide that the right answer should be 5. Okay. Now, why was it so quick in my decision to decide that this should be the right answer? Because looking at the later part of the paragraph, I can see that the second sentence is the detail of the island and its surroundings, for example, and the location. So the next sentence introduces the detail, the reasons, for example, the explanation or the development of the first sentence. And this is why I probably can decide the best answer should be number 5 for paragraph A. Okay, now let's talk about paragraph B. Now, if you again read the first sentence, it says that in the first place, the reef provide food and shelter. So we talk about, the products, for example, what they produce, the food and other products, okay? For consumption, what they consume, what they use, for example, by the islanders themselves. So whatever they produce is for the islanders. They use it for themselves. So while looking at the islanders themselves, it means that whatever they produce is only for the people of the island. It's not for the people outside. Now, I'm sure that if you read the later part, it says food include different types of fish, octopus, and the mollusks, okay? And in case of the poor families, these constitute most of 90% of the proteins you consume. So you can see that the next sentence is the detail about the food that they produce. But again, what it reminds you of is that the product of the food is for the consumption by the islanders themselves. It's not for the other people, it's only for the people who live in the islands. Now, if you look at the list of heading, it says the resources for islanders' own use, because it's not for people outside the islands. And for this thing, I think the best answer should be number 8. Right. Now, I just will take you randomly to different paragraphs, and then you can try to do the rest of the paragraphs by yourself, just for practice. Now, let's look at the paragraph F. Okay. Now, again, this paragraph's first sentence will be sufficient enough to help you to decide what should be the best answer. Well, how? Now, if you read and try to understand, comprehend the meaning, what exactly it is trying to communicate in the first sentence, you can see that the thing we're talking about is the occupation and survival, which has been for more than 100 years. And they have developed, the intimate knowledge of the reef. Now, to survive, okay, for more than 400 years, and as a part of the job and the occupation, they have developed sort of a knowledge. Now, further, if you read the next sentence, to describe what that knowledge is. Now, they have knowledge of numerous different types of fish, where they can be found according to the tide or the lunar cycle. So the next sentence even describes and talks about or develops the topic sentence, which is the beginning of the paragraph that talks about the knowledge. Now, knowledge or the skills, or maybe, for example, the expertise are probably quite similar, isn't it? So if I look back at the list of heading to try to match the sentence with the list of heading, I can see there's the word expertise in number 9, high level of expertise. So you can see that they have developed of numerous different types of fish, what they can be found according to tide or lunar cycle. So this is a very high level of expertise. They have developed the intimate knowledge of the reef. So I'm sure the first sentence and even the second sentence is probably more than enough to help you to decide what should be the best answer. However, if you want to continue to read further, it says that they have also developed a local naming system of folk taxonomy, naming fish according to their shape. So the next sentence even further develops the topic sentence about developing an intimate knowledge, where they can also remember the name of fish according to the shapes. Now, with this thing, we can quickly decide the best answer should be number 9 in Roman. And that's for question number, that's paragraph F. Okay, so that's here. So that's number 9. Okay. Well, as you remember what I said in the beginning of my lesson now, that if you discover that somewhere within the paragraph or the middle of the paragraph, if you discover there are some special prints, it can lead you to decide what should be the best answer. Now, if you look at paragraph G, for example, I can see there's certain words and phrases which have been written as a special phrase. For example, if you look at the word heroes, okay, or maybe the odams, right? Or maybe the word valuable, okay? I'm sorry if I'm not able to pronounce it very correctly. All right, and then again, odams here. So these are some special phrases. Now, what exactly did it say? Now, can I go back and read the first sentence? Because that introduces the topic. It says that reef plays an important role in the social lives of the islanders too, being an integral part of traditions and rituals. So the important thing is a tradition and the rituals. Now, most of the island folklore revolves around the reef and sea. Okay. Now, there's hardly any tale, maybe a story or song, which does not mention the traditional sailing craft known as Odam's Journey of the Enterprising Heroes. Now I can see that about Odam, okay, an enterprising hero. Now, I remember that they were talking about somebody who is famous and known, and the word which was used in the list of heading was the legends. So the word heroes referred to somebody who is known and famous. So again, the further refers to the legends. Now, by looking at these words and looking at the first sentence where we talk about the traditions and rituals, we talk about the folklores, then we talk about Odam, the journey of the enterprising heroes. Okay, that probably will help you decide that probably they're talking about the island legends, the heroes. Okay, so for paragraph G, I think what I can do is that I can quickly decide the best answer for paragraph G is actually number 1. Okay. Now let's talk about something similar to paragraph G, because if you look at paragraph C, it's quite similar because you can see that it has got lots of numbers. Like 20% of the household on the Guardian Lagoon of fishing was shingle. Or if you look at, for example, 12% of poor household completely dependent on the reef of the household income. Okay, so looking at these numbers, okay, or maybe 59% of the household rely on the reef. Okay, and then the word, sorry, the phrase which I see is being repeated quite a lot here is the household income. Household income. So looking at the paragraph, maybe you can see the word household income is one of the phrases that are being repeated quite rapidly throughout the paragraph. And there are numbers that talk about different household incomes. Now, looking at the list of the headings, is there anything that talks about the income? Well. What do you think? Yes, it's number 6, rising income levels. That's number 6 for paragraph C. That's the third one. So that's 6. Okay, but still you might want to read the first sentence to decide whether you have the same answer or not. So maybe the first sentence is something that you should be reading. In addition, the reef contributes to income generation. They talk about, generating the income, which is rising the income levels. That's paragraph 6. Okay, so you can see that because I looked at the numbers, which is within the in the middle of the paragraph, okay, that help me to decide what should be the right answer. And because I look at some phrases like household income, that's been repeated quite often, so that becomes easy for me. Okay, now can you try the rest all by yourselves? Specifically, if you look at, for example, paragraph D, and if you look at the first word, which says bartering, now anybody who knows what exactly is the meaning of barter, it should not take you more than 1 or 2 seconds to decide your answer if you know the meaning of barter. However, if you don't know the meaning of barter, I think you should read first and the second sentence to understand what the sentence is trying to communicate about the word barter. Now it says that barter-free resources are also commonly take place between both the islanders and the island. So there's a system which takes place between the islanders and between the islands. There's a system called bartering. What exactly is bartering? So they're giving here an example. Agati Island is known for its abundance of octopus. So they have a lot of octopus. And this is often used to obtain products from the nearby island. So, for example, the Gati Island people, they have, they have a lot of octopus, which they give to the nearby island people, and in exchange, in return, they obtain products, the other products. So probably this means there is an exchange of the products between, the islanders and the islands. Okay. Now it says the word resource and then the exchange or the barter. So the best answer should be number 2 for paragraph C. I'm sorry. D. Okay. Now, I'm sure that you can try the rest all by yourself. And if you can share your answer in your WhatsApp group and come back to me, all right? Now, let's look at the other type of questions. Okay, now this time we are looking at the, one of the most common type of questions with students, meet with a lot of issues and problems, and that question type is called true, false, and not given. Now, one strategy to help you to decide between true, false, and not given is to convert the statement into the question. Now, remember that these are the statement and they are not the questions, which you need to answer as if the statement is true or false, or the statement actually is not given. So you would answer yes or no or not given. So how about if you convert the statement into a question or into a closed question? A question that begins with an auxiliary verb like do, did, have, has, likewise. Okay, now again, the first thing we're going to look at is we can look at the organization of the text. Now, the text contains lots of paragraphs. So why not I just count the number of paragraphs first? Okay, so I can see that there are paragraphs here, like this is paragraph number 1. Okay. And this is paragraph number 2, which finishes on the next column here. And this is paragraph number 3. And this is number 4. Okay. This is number 5. This is number 6. And this is number 7 that finishes the bottom. Okay. So there are 7 paragraphs. And if you look at the number of questions from 20 to 25, you can see that these are also 7 questions. Like this is question number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, give me one more question. Yes, we do. It should be at the bottom. And this is the 7th question. So we have question number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, okay. What does that mean? It probably means that one paragraph or one question for one paragraph. So if you look at this paragraph, for example, I probably can see that this will probably contain the answer for question number 20. Likewise, if I look at question number 26, this is the last paragraph of question number 26. Okay, so that should be containing the answer for question 26. Likewise, if I look at, for example, question number 25, which should be in paragraph 6, so that is 25. Okay, now let's see that if I talk about, for example, question number 23, okay, so that should be the 4th paragraph. So it's paragraph 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so that's the 4th paragraph here. So it should be in this paragraph, question number 23. Okay. Now, as I said earlier, that to help you to decide whether the statement is true or false or not given, you need to convert the statement into a question, a closed question. Now let's look at question number or statement number 26. Now it says the Singapore will, no, I think we can start with question number 25 first. Now it says the government has enacted new laws to protect Singapore's old buildings. Now, how about if you convert the statement to a question? And because you see that the statement is in the perfect tense, so we will use has to convert this into the question. So that should be, has the government enacted new laws to protect Singapore's old building? Now, you might say that, well, I don't know the meaning of the word enacted. What is enacted? But if you look at the sentence again, it says the government has enacted new laws. So you can guess the meaning of the word enacted. Now, whenever the government enacts new laws, or whenever government enacts laws, it means that they make laws. They introduce the new laws, right? So you might quickly guess the meaning, that the meaning of enact is something as making new laws or introducing new laws, okay, or bringing new laws, something like that. So if you convert the statement to the question, it says that, has the government enacted new laws to protect Singapore's old building? Now, looking at paragraph number 25, it might say whether the government has enacted the new laws or the government has not enacted the new laws for the protection of Singapore's old building. As long as information is there, you can decide between true and false. Now, for instance, the paragraph says, well, yes, the government has, for example, plans on building new policies, new laws. You will say yes, because the information is synonymous, so it's true. But if it is the opposite, the information is there, but it says nothing about the new law. Says that no, they want to stick to the old laws, so that should be false. But imagine if it says nothing about the laws, okay, making new laws for the protection of Singapore's old building, you must decide that the information should be not given. Okay, so the key words in this question or in the statement is the new laws enacted and protect Singapore's old building. Now I'm going to read this paragraph and I'm going to scan through the paragraph with the key words like, laws, enacted new laws, protect Singapore's old buildings. Now, when I start to scan the keywords, I can see there is a word or the phrase older buildings that matches with this. What does that mean? It means that I'm going to read this part of the text very carefully, and this part of the text will help me decide whether the information is true or false, or whether the information does not exist. Now let's read the paragraph, the part of the passage. Now it says that this has included the realization rather late in the day of the value of retaining older buildings. So they're talking about, retaining older buildings. They want to retain the old buildings. They don't want to destroy them. Okay. But remember, the question is that has the government made the new laws for the protection of old buildings? It's all about making laws. So let's read it further. And the creation of a continuous riverside promenade. So it says nothing about the laws. Now let's read it even further. It says, since the relaxation in 1986 of strict guidelines on outdoor eating areas, this has become an extremely popular area in the evenings. Again, there is nothing about the word laws, the old laws or the new laws the government has made. Now let's read further. Maybe the information might be there in the next sentence. It says that also in 1998, the Urban Redevelopment Authority created a new entertainment area in the center of the city, which they are promoting as the city's one-stop dynamic entertainment scene. Now, looking at the entire part of the passage, the paragraph, sorry, there's nothing about whether the government has made new laws or whether the government has not made the new laws. So, because the information is not there, well, I can quickly decide that it's actually not given. So number 25 is actually not given. And you can see that I directly went to the paragraph where the answer was supposed to be found. Okay, so the answer to question number 25 is not given because there is nothing at all about, protecting, old buildings by making the laws. Okay, or the new laws, for example. Right, now let's look at another question, which is question number 26. And I know that I'm going to look at the last paragraph for the last question. Okay. Now let's read the statement, then turn the statement into the question, a closed question, and then find out the important keywords. Now, it says that Singapore will find it difficult to compete with leading cities in other parts of the world. Well, it says that Singapore will find it difficult. It will not be easy for them to have a competition with other leading cities, okay, in other parts of the world. Now, converting the statement into the question, I probably might make it like, will Singapore find it difficult to have a competition or to compete with other leading cities, okay, with leading cities in other parts of the world? So will it be difficult for Singapore? Now, looking at the keyword, the keywords are like find it difficult, compete with who? The other leading cities, where? In other parts of the world. Okay. Now, if I look at the last paragraph, it says, in conclusion, it says, in conclusion, the economic development of Singapore has been very consciously centrally planned. So looking at the sentence, they say that the economic development of Singapore city has been very carefully or consciously planned, centrally planned. And the strategy, the latest strategy, is very clearly oriented to establishing Singapore as a leading world city. Now, in the question, it says that Singapore will have a lot of problem, competing with the other leading cities in the other parts of the world. Now, if you look at the first sentence of the last paragraph, it says that the latest strategy is very clearly oriented to establishing Singapore as a leading world city. And you can also see at the beginning it says that that the economic development of Singapore has been very cautiously centrified. So the information is there, but they're quite opposites. Keeping this in mind, you can quickly decide the information actually is the opposites, is false. Okay. Now let's look at another question and we'll decide which paragraph we're going to look at. So let's look at question number 23. And we know that the information or the answer should be in the fourth paragraph, which is right here. Okay. Now let's read this statement, convert this statement into a question, and highlight the keywords, and then decide whether the information is true or is false, or the information does not exist, which means it's not given. Okay, now it says that planners have modeled new urban development on other coastal cities. Now, since we are talking about Singapore, it's a coastal city, so perhaps Singapore is also a coastal city. Now, again, if you look at this statement, is actually a perfect tense. So have is the auxiliary verb. I've used have to convert the statement into the question. And that should be like, have planners modeled new urban development on coastal or other coastal cities? So have planners modeled new urban developments? Have they modeled new urban development, or they have not modeled new urban developments? Now, if they say yes, they have modeled new urban development and they talk about the development in the paragraph, you say the answer is true. But if you read the paragraph and this still they stick to the old modes and there's no urban developments, okay, there's no like, you know, establishment of new things in the city, so that should be false. But if there's nothing about it, you probably can decide that the information is not there. Okay, so the important keywords here is the new urban developments, okay, on the other coastal cities. Now, because I'm going to look at the next paragraph, it says that one of the new features of the current plan is a broader conception of what contributes to the economic success. It encompasses high quality residential provision. Well, it's the urban developments, the high quality of the residential provision. A good environment, it also refers to the urban developments, leisure facilities, and exciting city life. So city life is the urban developments. Okay. Thus, there is more provision for low density housing, often in waterfront communities linked to the beaches and the recreational facilities. So that's the coastal cities. Okay. Now looking at all these words in the beginning of the paragraph, like this exciting city life, the leisure facilities, a good environment, residential provision, they all refer to the urban developments, which means that the answer actually is true. Okay. Right, so we're going to look at one more question this time, and I'm sure the rest you can decide by yourselves as a practice. Okay. Now let's look at question number 22. Now looking at this statement, it says that Singapore's 4 regional centers will finally or eventually be the same size. So they are talking about the size, of the 4 regional centers as its central business district. Okay, so they're comparing the size, the same size. The 4 regional centers, same size as the central business district. Now let's convert this statement into the question first. Now, since the statement has the auxiliary verb that is will, it's a future tense. Okay, so it should be like, will Singapore's 4 regional centers eventually be the same size as its central business district? Now let's look at the keywords. We're talking about the 4 regional centers. What we're talking about is a comparison of 4 regional centers with the central business district. And the comparison is same size. Okay. Now, I understand that the answer should be in paragraph number 3, which is this paragraph right here. Now, where exactly can you find the keywords like 4 regional centers or the center business district? Now, starting to scan to find the 4 regional centers, I'm sure by scanning through, you'll be able to find the 4 regional centers somewhere in the paragraph, which is right here. Okay. What does that mean? It means that I'm going to read this part of the text very carefully. That's called intensive reading, to decide whether the answer is true or false or otherwise not given. Now let's read through the part of the text together. It says that a major concern is to avoid congestion in the central area, and so the latest plan deviates from previous plans by having strong decentralization policy. The plan makes provision of 4 major regional centers serving each 800,000 people. But this does not mean that the existing central business district, which is right here, business district, okay, will not grow. So just talking about the growth in Hague. A major extension planned around the Marina Bay draws one example for the world city, especially with waterside central areas, and San Francisco and also Sydney. Looking at the paragraph again, they are talking about 4 major regional centers. They even talk about the central business district. I don't see they are comparing whether these 2 things will be of the same size or will be of a different size. There's nothing about the comparison in terms of the size between the 2 places. Now that probably helps me to conclude that the answer should be not given. So the answer to question number 22 is actually not given. So we've learned that how we need to decide which paragraph we need to spot, okay, to decide that we should read that specific paragraph to find the answer, okay, so that we're not going to read everything in the entire paragraph, okay, and waste of time. We need to decide which paragraph we should hit, which paragraph we should spot for which question. Okay. Now let's look at the other type of question. I'm going to help you with 2 questions, and the rest you can try by yourself, and you can share your answers with me in your group, okay, or maybe in the comments. Right, so this is a summary here. There are blanks for question number 14 to 19, and you choose your answer from the box below. And I suggest that first of all that you should read all the words. So I'm going to look at all the words, or rather I'm going to underline them, like decentralization, hospitals, trade, labor, agriculture, fuel, loans, transport, tourism, industry, deregulation, entertainment, hygiene, transport, service, recycling, and also beautification. Okay. Now, because you already have read the text already, so let's look at question number 14 and the words which are associated with question number 14, the keywords. Okay, the first thing I see here is that when Singapore became independent, that's the keyword, and also self-sufficient, it decided to build up its what? Now it's transport or industry. Now these are the 2 possible answers. To develop what? They cannot develop the beautification. They cannot develop, they can also develop the tourism, the transport, but they cannot develop the loans, okay? Or they cannot use the word recycling as an answer because it decided to develop what? Okay, now looking at the first paragraph, because this is the first question of the text, The words like independent, self-sufficient, decided, and finally build up. These 4 words are really important. Now, looking at the beginning of the paragraph, I find the word independent through scanning. Well, it's there. Right. Now, if I try to look for other words like build up or decided, maybe I can find the word decided, which is very close to this phrase, independent and decided. Okay. Wow. Okay. Now, if I just continue further, it says like develop one more time. Okay, it's right here, and develop is right here as well. Now, which means that I'm going to read only this part of the text to decide my answer. Now, let's read the part of the text. However, in 1965, the newly independent Ireland state was cut off from its hinterland, and so it set about pursuing a survival strategy. The good international communications it already enjoyed provided a useful base, but it was decided, okay, that if Singapore was to secure its economic future, okay, its economic future, it must develop, which is build up its industry. Now, does the word industry exist in the box below? Yes, I can find the word industry in the box. Where? Where is the word industry? It's right here. So that is number 14 answer. Okay. Now let's look at the next question. However, this initial plan met with limited success. That's the keyword. Because of shortage of 2 things. There was a shortage of 2 things. Number 1, I don't know. And the second one is the land. So there was a shortage of 2 things, something and land. Okay. Now coming down to the paragraph, and I will probably move to the next paragraph, but maybe the answer could also exist in the same paragraph sometimes. Okay. So it says that limited success due to the shortage of something and the land. Now, looking at the next paragraph, I can find the word land here, the land area. And then it says that due to limits on both the sides. So the limit on both, due to the limits, it refers to the shortage. There was a limit of something, a shortage of something. The both sides of the country's workforce and land. And land. And land. So we know the land, and the answer for number 15 here, according to the passage, is the workforce. Now, because you have to choose your answer from the box here, okay? So what could be another word for workforce? Workforce means the people who work. So that best matches with the word labor. So that is your answer to question number 15. Okay. Now let's talk about question number 16. And maybe you can try the rest by yourself, 17, 18, and 19. Now looking at question number 17, it says, in contrast to previous policies. Now I remember when I was reading the paragraph for question number 20 and 26, I remember that I came across this phrase, previous policies, here, the previous plans. Okay, which means that my answer has to be somewhere here, the previous plans. Okay, anyway, it says that in contrast to previous policies, there is emphasis on something. There's an emphasis on something. So the emphasis is on what? Okay, now let's read the paragraph. It says a major concern is to avoid congestion in the central areas And so the latest plan deviates from the previous plans by having a strong, a strong. So it refers to something like emphasis, a strong policy. What kind of policy is that? Strong policy, which means emphasis. Okay, on what? The word is decentralization. So you can see that there's the word decentralization here, which should be the answer for question number 17 right here. Okay. Now you may want to try question number 18 and 19, the remaining two questions by yourself. I hope that you find this video lesson useful, which covers, some of the main useful strategies to help you to decide what paragraph you should read and how you can save your time through reading a specific part of the passage. So thank you so very much and goodbye.